Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar, Keeping Heavy Equipment on the Job, How Fleet Maintenance and Management Technology Drives Profits. This event, brought to you by Engineering News Record, is sponsored by B2W Software. I'm your moderator, Scott Seltz, publisher of Engineering News Record, and thank you for joining us today. Today's presenters are Jeff Buckley, Equipment Manager at CA Hall, Dan Maitland, Equipment Operations Manager at Ajax Paving Industries of Florida, Brett Todd, Resource Operations Center Manager at Barriere Construction, and Jennifer Agrisano, Business Development Manager at B2W Software, and John Kane, Product Manager at B2W Software. Before we begin the presentation, there are a few housekeeping items I'd like to review with you. On your screen, you'll see a taskbar with icons. Each icon is assigned to a particular element of today's webinar. If you're unsure about what an icon does, simply hover over the icon with your mouse and a box will pop up that tells you its function. A copy of today's presentation is located in the handouts icon on your screen. Please take our survey following the webinar by clicking on the survey icon. Next to the slides window, there's a blank questions box that allows you to type a question in the box at any time during the presentation and then hit the submit button to send it to us. Later in the live program, our panelists will address as many questions as possible. Today's event is being recorded and archived on enr.com/webinars. All registered participants will receive an email within 1 to 2 business days that has a link to view a recording of this event. And now I'm excited to turn it over to today's first presenter, John Kane. John?
Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time today to join our webinar. I think you're going to find a lot of informative information. But first I want to introduce our panel once again. From CA Hull, we have Jeff Buckley. From Ajax Paving, we have Dan Maitland. And from Barriere Construction, we have Brett Todd. Also from B2W Software, we have business analyst Jennifer Agrisano, and myself, product manager for B2W's maintenance program, John Kane. So I'd like to go over a little bit about what we're going to be covering today. We're going to be talking about a little bit of market dynamics, different ideas for software solutions, and what your thoughts are there as well. Metrics and benchmarks we should be using in the industry. What the implementation questions and solutions are, and what your connected workflows are. And then we'll have a Q&A. We'll be able to answer questions going forward. So let me start by talking a little bit about B2W Software. We are a company that provides software products for the heavy civil construction industry that specializes in estimating, operations, business intelligence, as well as forms management and equipment maintenance. We were founded in 1983. We have about 100 plus software and construction experts within our company and close to 2,000 client companies under our belt. So let me talk a little bit about B2W's vision and how we approach how we solve the problems that we're hoping to address. Our vision basically is to take all of the construction workflows that a company would face and digitize them in a easy-to-use software product that provides greater efficiencies, allows data-driven decisions, and better project outcomes, all measurable by KPIs. Our mission is to empower and inspire heavy civil contractors to win more jobs via our estimating program and optimize your operational performance by delivering solutions regarding tracking of those jobs, dispatching of those jobs, as well as your equipment maintenance, and connect it all together via one database so that the data can flow freely between. And like I had mentioned, this all operates on one unified database. So all of your information from an estimating project can be turned into trackable items in the system. The data will flow from the estimate so you can track against it to see how you're doing against that job that you've won. And then we also have the dispatching product that actually allows you to manage your field personnel, get your moves scheduled, get your equipment scheduled, and get those jobs up and running with your day-to-day. And then, of course, we have our maintenance software, which allows you to track the preventive maintenance, any other break fixes, or any other preventive maintenance that needs to occur with your equipment fleet, as well as inventory structures, purchasing, and other things that go along with your parts management. Then we also have a product that helps you manage your documentation and your forms, tying all this data together in one database and allowing the data to freely flow between all of these different elements. So let's talk about some of the market requirements and how we can enable the technology behind them. So as probably you all know, there are heavy civil market pressures because margins are tightening. We all know this. The competition is fierce. The essential equipment is expensive, sophisticated, and getting more and more sophisticated with the advent of telematics and the tracking devices within them. And we all know there's a financial risk and reward based on the uptime, your logistics management, and of course your overall ownership strategies. So the challenges that most companies are up against in this sector and the problems we solve with our software basically is to create process efficiency, moving from a reactive to a proactive approach to your maintenance, giving you real-time visibility, and that's huge in the industry now. As projects become fast and furious, you really want to know and need to know where your equipment is at any given time. And accountability and measurement. These are big measurable items that companies need to stay on top of to remain efficient and to compete in the industry. We all know that technology drives opportunity. Using specialized software, whether it's mobile-based or web-based or cloud-based, all those options are available to companies today. As I mentioned previously, telematics, GPS information, and all those kinds of tracking devices that come with equipment nowadays or can be installed on equipment, along with companies that provide the services associated with them, is becoming more and more required for companies to be competitive in the industry. And of course, we have the Internet of Things, which is the large kind of aspect of everything available via the technology. Okay. So I'd like to talk about find out exactly from our audience, what convinced you to adopt a maintenance software, if you've done that already. We'd like to talk about some of the considerations that you've had, some of the open questions that you had to deal with. So I'd like to turn it over to Dan Maitland, an equipment operations manager from Ajax Paving, to talk about his experience.
Thank you very much, John, and thanks B2W for having me. Ajax Paving has had B2W, I believe, for about 2 years now. And, you guys had asked me to kind of speak on behalf of what drove us to get to the point of, A, realizing we needed to improve, and then, B, finding a system that would help us do that. We were using Bid to Win. We've had the software for estimating and the field guys doing their time cards and estimating through B2W software for a long time. So kind of maintain was like the final step that made sense for Ajax. Half of our company was already using B2W software, and we were having constant issues that most people have of field to shop communication issues. I called so-and-so and didn't get repaired. He said, she said, back and forth. So we had a need to, A, document when a service call was placed and to make sure there was follow-up. So that was kind of what, and I mean, there's several things, but we needed accountability to follow up from field requests. And up until that point, we were still using paper time cards. So we kind of entered B2W Maintain as a time card solution and field communication solution and follow-up from the field. So having a work order, we knew we needed a work order system. We just really didn't know how to come up with one or what was the best route. So B2W is kind of a natural fit. So that was kind of the main thing. You know, got time cards, work orders, and then obviously preventative maintenance. We were kind of fly by night in terms of a lot of ways. We have our lube trucks, but they kind of just would go to the shop foreman and say, hey, where am I going today? And just is very old school in the sense of how we ran. So, you know, we definitely knew there was a need for a true preventive maintenance program that was based upon meter readings, equipment location, that sort of thing. And we also saw a need at Ajax Paving that we didn't have an accurate repair history. I mean, we had invoices in our accounting software, but we didn't really have a story to be told per piece of what maintenance was done to it, or, you know, we couldn't put our own notes in. We just had invoices from other vendors. So those were kind of the main things that really got Ajax in. It was just a natural fit. And actually the other thing, too, that's not on the screen is ease of use. You know what I mean? Because we got guys in the field that aren't very technical savvy, and some of our technicians, same way. This was kind of their first computer or first laptop. So had to have a software that was easy for them to use, because if it wasn't easy, well, they weren't going to use it. So I think it was a natural fit, and so far, so good.
Thank you, Dan. That's great to hear. I think you're right. The uptake of technology and introducing that into the shop is a struggle with a lot of companies. So I'm also going to turn this over to Jeff Buckley to get your input into that as well.
Yes, John, thank you. So similar to Ajax, we shared similar needs. CA Hull is a full-service bridge construction and rehabilitation throughout the state of Michigan, and we employ on average 240 employees per year. We have 2 full-time mechanics that maintain roughly 500 pieces of equipment. And prior to maintain, repairs and service were well documented with the use of our accounting software and Excel spreadsheets. However, we relied solely on field employees to monitor and report repairs, as well as schedule routine maintenance. We've been using Build to Win Maintain for past 4 years now. We're looking to improve the way we manage our fleet. This included communication between our shop, mechanics, and field. We were also looking at ways that we could cut cost, increase profitability, and reduce downtime. In addition, we were looking for a database that all of our employees, everyone had access to. So.
Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate that. Also, Brett, do you have input as well?
Yes, John, thank you. Yeah, Barriere's story is very similar to Dan and Jeff's. 20 years ago, we started off using Explorer, which is an accounting-based system. Used that for many years and worked with those guys to really build up their preventative maintenance program for the equipment. And yeah, so we did the whole paper time cards and spreadsheets and really the same story as Dan and Jeff, like I said before. And we got in, we bought B2W Estimate about 6 to 7 years ago, and we started getting into a lot of the telematics and trying to stay ahead of our competitors here in the local area. And we really, we settled on B2W. We really felt like those guys offered what we've been looking for many years. And what we found is, their preventative maintenance program really sets us apart with our competitors in the area. We can tell when our machines are due up for service. We also, we don't have a shop. We closed our shop down in 2004, and so we solely rely on our local Caterpillar dealer and outside mechanics. So having that technology of the tablets and being able to know where our machines are really allows us to cut down our travel time and really save on our cost for the equipment.
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate that. I'd like to move forward to our first polling question, and I'd like you all to participate if you could. So what is the primary system your company uses to manage equipment maintenance and repairs? Do you use a specialized software application like B2W offers? Do you have an internally developed software? I know a lot of companies do that. Do you use spreadsheet? Is it a manual process using Excel? Do you have offline systems, whiteboards, paper-based forms, etc.? Or is it a combination of any one of those, or maybe other, something that is not listed there? So we're seeing some results come in. It looks like about 55% of our participants are using some kind of specialized application. About 23% are using a manual process with spreadsheets and Excel. We've got about 10 to 15% using some kind of combination of all of that. So it looks like it runs the gamut. 5% using an internally developed software. Usually that's a fairly low number because of the overhead associated with that as well. So this is really good. So again, about 12-15% combination of all of the above to some extent. So I appreciate you participating in that poll. Thank you. Okay, so what are the key features and benefits of a CMMS software product? So some of the basic features is oversight, right? So we need to be able to see at any given time the status of our equipment, the status of our mechanics, our inventory structures, our purchasing structures, where our work orders at, where they're not, where our equipment is and where it isn't. And as a shop manager, we need to make decisions based on all of that information. And having a system that provides that information in an easy-to-use interface, such as what you're seeing on the slide, allows you to make decisions without even having to navigate throughout the system. So it kind of is your window into the software. And this is something you want to look for because as a shop manager, your time is tight and you're pulled in a lot of directions. So you want to have kind of a one-stop shop to allow you to see this information and react to it appropriately. So again, as I touched on, some kind of dashboard information giving you that high-level info. You need a way to manage your repair requests that come in either from the field, from a tablet user, from possibly your job personnel, and also driven off of the system itself, such as preventive maintenance and any meter readings that come in that drive that preventive maintenance. You want a way to manage those repair requests in a simple and easy way and get those moved through the system in a timely way. Preventive maintenance, that's one of the big aspects of your equipment maintenance. We all know that should be the majority of your work and not the minority of your work. So you want to make sure that you're maximizing your preventive maintenance, you're getting it done on time. Of course, we all know that means that the better you are at managing your preventive maintenance, the more your equipment is working in the field and making you money. And of course, no software product is good unless there are outputs and KPIs or measurable outcomes. You need the data to drive that. You need to report against it. And you need to be able to react to it and make decisions. Things like sweet spot analysis on your equipment, whether you should rent a piece of equipment or not. Decisions like that are driven by data that comes from your software product that you choose. So you want to be sure that that's readily available and given to the right people. Obviously, and I think Dan mentioned this previously, the I told you so mentality of that, repairs never getting done, planning and scheduling the work orders and repair requests in the system needs to be simple and needs to be visible, and you need to be able to easily know at any given time what is scheduled to who and when. In that same kind of screen or aspect of the software, you want to be able to see the status of your preventive maintenance items. And again, I think you'll see that as a common theme throughout this webinar, that preventive maintenance is a big part of the focus of a CMMS program. You want to be able to reference your repair history as well. Sometimes that has a lot to do with your warranty management and whether you've kept up on your preventive maintenance or that you've kept up on the maintenance overall. You want to maximize your warranty dollars. You want to make sure that every penny you can save on the maintenance of this piece of equipment is available to you and visible so that you can make decisions based on that as well. So this is what we touched on earlier, basically, the technological part of the process. We know that when you have mechanics in your shop that have been with the company for 20 years, they're dedicated, they're loyal, they're hardworking, introducing a new software product or technology in general is not always an easy approach. It takes strategy and it takes a lot of thought. So having a software program that actually allows ease of use, visibility, and adaptability is something that you want to consider. Again, business decisions are based on the information you get out of the software. You want to eliminate those spreadsheets for schedules, work with your vendors so that you can use tablets in the field, and you want to cut down on double the work. And this is creating efficiencies in the field. Your digital inspections forms, you want a form management system that allows you to take the data from the inspection forms, put it in the system, and have the system react to it. And life cycle costs. We all know that's an important part of equipment maintenance, so keeping your years of data archived and in the system so that you can reference it and make decisions, that's also important. Moving on to telematics, getting the data and making it useful. So telematics is I don't want to say a new technology. It's been around for a long time, but it provides a lot of information for your location of your equipment, the health of your equipment, how hard it's working, and some other data as well. And I'd like to turn it over to Jeff, to Dan, and to Brett to talk a little bit about how they've applied telematics into their business. And we can start with Jeff.
Sure, thanks, John. So we have roughly 65 pieces of equipment with telematics. We utilize Fleet Watchers by Earthwave Technologies and contracts. Both easily integrate hours and location into maintain. From a daily standpoint, we use telematics throughout the day. All our mechanics use it. Our entire equipment department uses it. We monitor productivity, idle percentage, usage, and location. We use the idle alerts, which are pretty unpopular with a lot of the operators because it always tells us if things are idling too long. So we send out idle alerts to our operators, foremen, and superintendents to make them aware of what the equipment's actually doing, and make them aware that we're actually monitoring it as well. From a weekly standpoint, we distribute weekly reports to all of our operations, and we take a look at underutilized equipment for discussion and potentially relocate to different job sites or replace by right sizing certain pieces of equipment, maybe too large or too small for the jobs that they're trying to do. And then from an annual standpoint, we look back at the total category, hours, productivity, fuel consumption, and hours in a particular mode, such as digging or breaker hours. And this data helps to, again, right-size the fleet.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. How about you, Dan? How do you integrate telematics into your daily?
So for me at Ajax, we're still kind of getting into telematics to a certain degree. We have a couple of different. I put VisionLink because that, in terms of the yellow iron construction equipment, has been the easiest one for me so far to kind of integrate to B2W. Just has been. For our on-road trucks, we use a different company called Azuga, but they're not as strong at equipment meter readings. They're more plug into your port in your vehicle. But on a day-to-day basis, it's kind of a spot check thing. But like Jeff said, it's more of a big picture thing, kind of monthly. Run a utilization report, see what's been idling or what hasn't cranked in a week. You know what I mean? Then you can make some phone calls or figure out let's position this piece of equipment where it can be utilized. If they're not going to use it, we'll give it to somebody who will. And then the biggest thing is helps prevent. It's very expensive, but the goal would be nice to have in every piece of equipment. But it is very expensive. You don't have to rely on the field turning in equipment hours, because that's one of our goals, is to slowly but surely get everything automated to where we're not relying on more spreadsheets getting turned in on a weekly or monthly basis. And so that's kind of the end game goal. And obviously, theft prevention is another strong suit, and I'm sure everyone's been through that at some point. And he helps recover a piece of equipment. Also for transport moves, we use it for instead of the low boy calling 5 superintendents to see where that backhoe went, now we can look it up on a computer, and that saves a lot of time. So I mean, you're going to save a lot of time on. We still waste a lot of time doing it. We're not perfect, but finding equipment, is it sitting on the job? Did they forget about it? That sort of thing.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. You'll notice a common theme here with the location of equipment and visibility into that is hugely important. Brett, how about your company? How do you integrate with telematics?
Yeah, here at Barriere, we have 167 pieces of off-road equipment that's on the VisionLink. We have 100% of our on-road fleet, which is about 40 vehicles, on Zonar. And Zonar we use for our daily inspections, DOT inspections, and also any deficiency that the drivers write up, they put into Zonar. We have a guy dedicated in-house to daily monitoring of the equipment usage and the fault codes that we have coming in from VisionLink. And when he gets those fault codes, those alerts, we try to be proactive, and we will, call the foreman and the supervisors on the job so that, when we get the alerts, for example, loader is running without his seatbelt on. We want to make those calls and say, hey, we're watching you. Be safe, put your seatbelt on. Make sure you disengage the parking brake before you take off. Make sure you shut the machine down properly, while it's going through the regen process. We also the hour meters and odometer meter readings are being imported in every day automatically into B2W from these telematic systems, and that drives our PM system. So we accurately know when these machines need to be serviced. We also use VisionLink and our other telematic systems, just like some of the other companies, on where the machines are at, so that we can plan and schedule downtime with our supervisors out in the field, so our mechanics have more wrench time and less windshield time, which helps us keep our costs down, or repair costs down.
Thank you, Brett. That's great information. As you can see, that the telematics can tend to have a kind of big brother approach, but in reality, as Brett mentioned, it can save your or add to your safety metrics and keeping drivers safe and operators safe and people in the field safe as well. So there's a lot of applications of the telematics data, not just location and meter readings. And there's a lot of aggregators out there that are available to companies to integrate with and bring all that data into their system. Right now, I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer Angrisano, our business analyst here at B2W. She's going to talk about some of the things you should be measuring with a software product and why it's important. Jennifer?
Good afternoon, everyone. So as John mentioned, I'll take a look at what companies in the industry are measuring and typically why it is important to them. Okay, so why are measures important? It is because they are the key thing that drives success. Measures help an organization to understand its strengths and its weaknesses, and it leads them to improve their processes and efficiencies. Measures also allow you to benchmark yourself against competitors and others in the industry. It allows you to know how you are doing and, again, forces you to look at areas that need improvement in your organization. It also gives you a baseline to set your goals, so you know where to look and where you need to go. I like to look at measures, and I want them to be smart. They need to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. They also need to be communicated amongst all your employees. It should be open book policy of getting these metrics out so that everybody can see them and hold people accountable to them. And with that communication, you also need the leadership to support holding people and your company to those goals so that you can reach them. And you want to also, again, display these to emphasize the importance and to provide feedback to your employees. So right now we'll go in and we'll look at some key metrics that I have found to be useful in the maintenance organization. The first one is the percent of emergency or breakdown work. A good target to look at for this is to become less than 5%. And again, this is your emergency maintenance man-hours divided by your total maintenance man-hours. The next one is your percent of preventive maintenance man-hours. You want to look at greater than 65%, again, because you really want to concentrate on preventing performing your preventive maintenance to reduce your equipment from breaking down. And this would be your total PM man-hours divided by your total maintenance man-hours. And the next one would be your percent planned or scheduled hours. Typically, organizations in our industry want to look at getting greater than at least 80% of planned hours, and that measure is your planned hours divided by your total man-hours. And then this is another common one. It's your percent maintenance overtime hours, and that is calculated by your overtime hours divided by your total hours, and you would like to get to a goal of less than 10%. And right now we'll take another poll question quickly. How much does your company spend on equipment maintenance and repairs, including overhead and materials, in revenue? And we're looking for answers of more than 15%, between 10 and 15%, between 5 and 10%, less than 5%. We don't really measure that, or I think the last one was I don't know. And it looks like people are starting to answer this, and the majority is coming in somewhere between 10 and 15%. Just give it a couple more minutes, because a couple more seconds to see if any more come in. 26% actually are not measuring it or don't know. But we're still looking at the most common is 30%, and less than 5% is only 4%, and there's a few that are over 15%. Okay, so just to keep that in mind, an actual target for that metric is to be somewhere below 5%, and I believe the previous slide had only about 4% of our viewers actually reporting less than 5%. So that's a target that some organizations may want to look at trying to improve on by reducing their maintenance costs, which a CMMS product can help you to do. And then the last measure I have is your maintenance percent as a percent of your estimated replacement value. And again, this is your total maintenance costs divided by your estimated replacement value of your fleet, and that should be under 5% as well. And now I will turn it over to the panelists to discuss what they measure. And I think it's Jeff will be up first to talk about his measures. Jeff?
Thanks, Jennifer. So maintenance costs as a percentage of annual revenue has decreased roughly 5% since implementing Maintain. That's kind of what we've found out. Our preventative versus corrective, having programs in place such as calendar-based and hour-based maintenance programs have been very effective and have definitely decreased our emergency work. We've had a significant amount more work this year, so trying to gauge that is always a little bit challenging. As far as staffing, I would say probably over the past 3-4 years or so, we've actually eliminated full-time job site mechanics. We found that the full-time job site mechanics weren't necessary anymore, dispatched from a central location. Obviously having a full-time mechanic on a job site, it tends to lead to unwarranted repairs. And now, again, we can dispatch everything from a central location, which always helps. We've heard of the proverbs, you cannot improve what you cannot measure, or another way of saying that, you need to know where you've been to see where you're going. So obviously the more data you have, the better. We know the utilization of every equipment in the fleet needs to be maximized with low idle percentage. All of our projects are different with different scopes of work. It's simply not possible to produce a balanced budget if the utilization of every machine in the fleet is not optimized. We develop strategies, we set benchmarks, we monitor the success, and then, of course, adjust benchmarks accordingly. So with this data, we can calculate true hourly owning and operating cost.
Sorry, now turn it over to Brett.
Thank you, Jennifer. Here at Barriere, we track 28 KPIs on a monthly basis. We have them broken down into 6 different categories. We track safety, financial, training, operations, maintenance, and vendor KPIs. In 2016, we have an average of 4% of our work orders being emergency. Before we first started using a CMMS system, we were around the 75% range. So it's taken us about 15, 18 years to get down to that 4%, and it's quite a journey. But having a proper CMMS system really will help you do that. Training, we have over 2,200 hours of equipment training and safety training in 2016 alone. We have developed a very robust training program for our operators to progress in their career as an operator here at Barriere, and we use our CMMS systems and the telematics systems to schedule our people in downtime so that we're not just bringing people in on Saturdays. That's a part of our core here at Barriere. We just like Jeff had mentioned, we maximize our own equipment utilization to cut down on our rental costs, and we also analyze that every year. What percentage of our fleet is rental, and how much is that costing us every year. We also plan major repairs and downtime. We don't really get a downtime for winter season, so we run all year long, and so we have to schedule those major repairs on our equipment around the jobs. And having a CMMS system, working with the operations to say this, I need to have this piece of equipment down for this long. This is what I need to do. And really building a relationship with operations and upper management, has really helped us, our maintenance department down here. We also have lower transportation costs with real-time locations. We plan our low-boy routes so that they can hopefully have a load on them at all times, and I'm not just deadheading somewhere to keep our cost per move down.
Great. Thank you, Brett, for that. Now we'll take a look at some of the challenges of actually implementing a computerized maintenance management system. Some typical things to look out for is, a big one is, of course, resistance to change. There's a lot of people particularly in maintenance, that have never used any kind of computerized technology, so it's a bit of a scare, and a lot of them tend to think that Big Brother is watching. So that's something that you really want to try to avoid, and make sure to identify the good aspects of that will help your organization become more efficiency by adopting a software. The amount of time it actually takes to gather the good data to build your database, the lack of technology to support the software. So you want to make sure that you have the other pieces of the software that allow you to bring in things like telematics, and also if the software has the capability to use tablets, whether you purchase those or not, and just other forms of technology. You want to look at the length of time it can take. It can take quite a long time, and a big commitment from a team in your organization to actually implement a maintenance software package. There's another thing to look out for is not enough management support. You need the management support to allow your team to dedicate those resources to making sure that the system is set up appropriately. And then you also have to look at possible changes in your processes and procedures to make the software work and run efficiently as it's supposed to. You also want to be careful that you make sure that you train the people, the end users, appropriately, so that they know exactly how the software is to be used. There's always the concern for budget constraints. Do we have the money to be able to support putting in a new maintenance management software system? And then, of course, there is the follow-through. You want to be sure to make sure that when you start this thing, you're going to see it till the end. And I'm going to turn it back over to the panelists. Jeff, if you want to start maybe and talk about some of your things for overcoming these challenges.
Sure. It's important that the entire company or your entire organization needs to know the plan, and they need you need to be able to sell the concept, and then properly train the employees. And along with that, creating a written procedure so it's not well documented, and anytime there are any questions, you can refer to the procedure, and then enforce it, making sure that the operations enforces it, as well as all departments across the board. They make sure they understand the plan that everyone is trying to accomplish. And holding meetings once per week or once per month always helps. And from a time aspect, it's hard. Everyone, and depending on where you're at and what generation your employees are at, sometimes it takes longer than others. But for example, actually, we had a mechanic that he's approaching 60 years old, and the last person I would have expected to grab onto this grasp onto this would be him. And sure enough, he picked it up right away, and he enjoys it. He has a tablet, and it's very easy for him. So, and then of course the fear. There are some out there that don't like change, and you're going to come across that. It doesn't matter how old they are. You're gonna have those challenges.
Sure. Dan, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Pretty much, yeah. The same challenges that anyone's going to face. It's going to have resistance. At Ajax, technology was a big issue. Like I said, a lot of the guys were not computer savvy, and that's still a struggle. You just have to accept the fact that will be a constant struggle. Some guys will just never really get good at it. You just got to help them out when you can. But the benefits outweigh the negatives. Having the backing of the top of the company is key. Upper management has got to support it, and just like anything else, you just got to treat it seriously and and to hold guys accountable and sell them on the vision of why you're doing it. You're not just doing it to, be big brother. You're doing it to show them the cost savings, which might give them a bigger bonus at the end of the year or whatever you have to do to sell it. And at the end of the day, it's there to make their lives easier. So you just got to convince them that's going to make their lives easier, and eventually it will.
Sure. And Brett, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I really wish I could add something different to what Dan and Jeff had said, but
Sure.
yeah, I'm going to mirror, really mirror what they said. We've had a lot of similar challenges. Really, the biggest thing for us is, we've had to prove to the operations how the efforts that we put in on a day-to-day basis will benefit them. How will, by shutting this machine down for 2 hours to let me change the oil or do this maintenance on this equipment, how that will prevent them a breakdown in the near future. That's really been a challenge, and we've had to work with our operations very closely to drive that home and really prove those points to them. We really have the backing of the upper management here from the top down. They are very supportive. And at the end of the day, it really is a team effort of the whole company. We are a service center. We are here to provide a service for our customers, the operation guys out in the field, and again, it's just proving to them, hey, I'm here for you, but we need to work together as a team to make this work. So,
right.
I've got a lot of a mix of older and younger mechanics in our fleet of mechanics that we have, and really everyone has grasped on to the technologies. You just got to figure out how you need to teach them, because people learn in different ways. So
Absolutely. All right, all great information. I think we have another polling question coming up now, so if everybody wants to answer this. What is the most important factor preventing your company from adopting specialized software for maintenance management? Is it the initial investment cost and doubts about the return on investment? Is it we don't need it, current systems are good enough? Is it implementation processes will be too long and painful? Or is it you're concerned that employees won't be able to handle the technology? And we're starting to get some coming in. Or it's we've just never gotten around to investigating in maintenance software. So this is kind of interesting because it looks like a few of them are running about the same. The implementation process will be too long and painful. It looks like, oh, nope, now it's being overtaken by we've just never gotten around to investigating the maintenance software, which is something that I've typically heard a lot of. It's just something that takes time and a lot of effort, so it tends to be put on the back end. But as you can see from some of the metrics that we went through, it would be very beneficial to be able to have a software to allow you to implement some of those measures and those type of things to run your shop more efficiently and effectively. So now I am going to turn it back over to John.
Thank you, Jen. In this segment, I'd like to talk about, with the panel, unifying maintenance with other workflows. As I spoke and pointed to earlier, starting with the beginning of your estimate and flowing right through to your maintenance program is a set of data. Now, each set of data feeds the other. So as you're doing your estimates and you're tracking against that and you're dispatching equipment, and by the way, you're doing maintenance on that equipment as well, that transparent communication of data needs to happen. And that allows the proper personnel to react appropriately in each scenario. So in the field, you see something wrong with a piece of equipment, you want to be able to add a repair request, and of course someone in the field really has nothing to do with the maintenance software. He's just doing what he does in the field. He's a laborer or something like that, maybe even a foreman. And he enters in this repair request because he saw something wrong with the equipment. That has to flow through cleanly and easily to your maintenance software, to your shop manager, where he can see that, prioritize it, schedule it, and get a mechanic on it so we can get that fixed, whether it's sending him out to the job or bringing the piece of equipment in based on the other data available in the system. So to talk about this, I'd like to turn it over to the panel to talk about, how on their teams they see this working for them. And why don't we start with Brett this time?
Oh, thank you, John. Well, we have our inspections coming in from the field, not only in repair requests, but also in a digital format through Inform, another B2W product. And it's, we have the inspections coming in. We make the work orders, schedule the parts. We have a team here in the Rock Center that communicates daily with the foreman back out in the field, with the superintendents back out in the field, with our mechanics. And, we look to see, look for opportunities, windows that we can, go and fix this equipment in a most time-efficient manner. We've had a lot of success here with the communication between the products and between the center here. It's worked very well for us.
Thanks, Brett. How about you, Dan? What do you see as some of the benefits of the unifying approach?
I touched on it earlier when our field guys are already using the track side of B2W. So they're already in there doing their daily field logs, and it just made sense to, while they're in there doing their logs, they can do a repair request, and then that communicates to the shop. But here at Ajax, we do a little bit differently in this sense that we just have our guys, we started that way, and then we just went back to another. We had a problem with our company. I'm sure a lot of guys have this problem. We had like 5 systems for everything, and we're trying to consolidate down. I mean, that's a constant struggle. So, but one of the systems we did have was like a phone system where the guys call, and we actually still use it. The superintendent calls, leaves a message, and then that texts whoever the key shop foreman. If it's a 911 emergency, I'll get the text, and then the main shop foreman will get a text, and then they create a work order from there. So, we just saw it was easier for the guys in the field to call, leave a message, instead of going to the computer and then doing a repair request. So I guess the good news is with your software, there's multiple ways to use it to be effective. You don't have to do 100% one way or the other. You can kind of implement different. If you already have something that's kind of working for you, you can still tie it into B2W, and that's kind of what we did at Ajax. And we could talk about it forever, but that's really the summary.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Dan. I think the advent of mobile technology and the tablets allowing that information to flow from the field right into the system, or even integrating with another software is important and a consideration to make. How about you, Jeff?
Adding to what Dan had just said, we had a couple superintendents that either placed a phone call, texted, emailed, and they were a little bit resistant at first when Maintain came out, and as far as repair requests. And over time, in a very short period of time, I should say, they've realized that we are so focused on watching, the repair requests come in, assigning work orders, that if they actually put it into the system, your repair request is going to be responded to much faster. And so it's definitely helped us out there. Project teams can easily schedule and preload the job boards. We have all the modules for B2W, and depending on their role, each employee has the ability to request equipment and material needs and the equipment view equipment locations. So it has definitely benefited us that in that way with one platform.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that input. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Q&A. Any questions we can answer for you in the system, just let us know.
Thank you, John, and everybody. That was a great presentation. If you'd like to schedule an appointment with today's sponsor, B2W Software, please click on the Schedule an Appointment button to have someone reach out to you. And now, as John mentioned, we're going to be able to take some questions to address to our presenters. And the first question is, how valuable is the dashboard? How do you use it?
So I guess I'll take a stab at that. One of the things we used in developing our own dashboard here is to, as I had mentioned previously, to provide insight into the system as a whole for a shop manager to see at any given time what's going on. That's the approach we took with the dashboard, and most software companies provide that same approach. But I'll ask the panel, Jeff, Dan, and Brett, how do you use the dashboard?
This is Jeff. For me, it's I'm not actually the one assigning work orders, or I should say, adding requests to work orders and scheduling the work orders. But I actually get to view it. I get to see how long they've been sitting there. What's complete, what's not complete. For me, it's huge. I can look at it. I leave it up on one screen throughout the day and verify what's being completed, where mechanics are at, and if something pops up, I can basically call in or shoot them an email. Hey, listen, there's a couple other pieces of equipment that just popped up in your location. Why don't you go take care of those?
That's good. This is Dan, Ajax. I think it's also very beneficial. I don't leave it up 24/7, but I do check it at least every other day or once per day. I like it because it shows a snapshot of how many hours you guys have worked for the current week. That's pretty useful, and like I said, it kind of shows how many unscheduled. I pulled it up real quick while I'm on the conference call. How many unscheduled work orders you have open lying out there. More importantly, how many are past due, and your pending time cards. It's pretty useful just for a snapshot, and then you drill in from there.
Yeah, John, Brett here. Same here. I come in here first thing in the morning in my office. I look at it. It really gives me a snapshot of how yesterday went, how today is going to go. I can, look at my past due work orders. I look at what PMs have come in for the day, and that really gives me a snapshot of when I go to my team, hey guys, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? We need to jump on this. No, let's push this back. So it really gives, for me as a manager, how efficient is my team, and how do we need to step back and adjust and kind of get back on track.
Excellent. And I think this next question is obviously directed to you, Jeff, Dan, and Brett. What are the top 3 KPIs that you use? Yeah, so I heard 60. Somebody had 60. So what's your top 3?
Well,
that's really kind of hard to say. We like to treat every KPI here with the utmost importance, but really we track our maintenance costs as a percent of revenue. We look at that very closely. I really look at my days to complete work orders. We track how many days from a request that was sent in, how many days it takes us to get that repair completed, that request completed. Because if I can't fix the repairs in a reasonable amount of time, then my customer, the operations in the field, they lose faith in us. So we want to get that repair fixed within a certain number of days. We also track, probably another top one is our safety KPIs. How many incidents do we have? How many safety incidents do we have in that given year and month to month? because that allows us, we look at those incidences and then we make a determination. Well, what happened? Is it a training issue? Is it a equipment failure? Or does this guy just need some help?
Okay, good. We do have time for one more question. And John, I think this might be yours or it might be for Jennifer, but the question is, when integrating with a financial system, where in the process does B2W system stop and the financial system take over?
That's a great question. Sometimes it requires decisions that you need to make as a company. And decisions like, so which system will be your system of record? If we talk about maintenance and we talk about the different aspects of maintenance, one of them being inventory, we know that obviously that's a big cost to your organization, and you need to decide which system will be your system of record. It is almost impossible to keep accurate records in two systems at once. So with that, you want to make sure that you're deciding which one's a system of record. Then if you need information from the maintenance software, if you decide it is your financial software, then you can export the data that you need specifically to your accounting software. And that's the same with equipment maintenance cost information and your work order cost, meaning your parts, labor, your consumables, that kind of thing. Getting that work order cost so it can be allocated to your equipment in your financial or accounting software via some kind of integration there. So you can either track it in your software product or you can decide to export it out. But again, the decision needs to be made about which one is going to be your system of record, and that'll dictate which direction you go in.
Excellent. And our time is up for this presentation. I want to have the audience join me in thanking Jeff Buckley, Dan Maitland, Brett Todd, Jennifer Agrisano, and John Kane for the presentation. Now, if you have any additional questions or comments, you can pass those on to us by sending an email to webinars@bnpmedia.com, and we'll get back to you on those. Before you leave us, though, please take a few minutes to complete our survey. We strongly recommend or welcome your detailed comments and to help us serve you better. Also, make sure you visit enr.com/webinars for information about other upcoming events. We hope you found this webinar to be a valuable experience. Thank you and have a great day.